Hello, thank you for the introduction. My name is Andrea, and this panel is being hosted by We Make Waves. We'll hear more about that association organization in a few minutes. Spot on for the marginalized. I'd like to relate the topic to the image of the Republica theme, actually, to the image of the bubble. So there's a lot of talk about bubbles and how it's necessary to open them up and to have exchange and so on. But I would like to discuss and think about with this group of people who we're going to introduce in a minute. How, if we're thinking about supporting marginalized people, in how far the bubble or a space, be it in a digital space or in real life space, can also mean like a safer environment, can mean protection, and can mean thriving and growth within that space. And all panelists are active in some activity creating spaces for female identifying trans and non-binary people. And with a quick round of introduction, we'll learn what those spaces are about. Elie, you want to start?
Hi, so I'm Elie Gregory. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay, I can't hear myself. And I'm a composer and music producer. And I've been involved in a few different groups, but mostly I helped to organise the group Meetup Berlin, which is a space for female, trans and non-binary artists, where we organise the evenings once every month or once every 2 months. And we begin with a discussion, which is for female, trans and non-binary people only. And then after the discussion, we have live performances, DJs and VJs, which is open to everybody.
Hi, I'm Caoimhe McAlister, and I'm one of the organisers of We Make Waves conference and festival, which took place for the first time in November last year, and will be taking place again this year in November. And that's pretty much it.
Hi, I'm Melissa Perales. I'm also with Kiva, a member of the organization team for We Make Waves, and I work with Andrea at Music Pool Berlin and Torstrassen Festival also.
And in order to explain what We Make Waves is about, which not everybody might be familiar with, you have brought a short video clip, which we are going to show now.
Can we see it up here too? Yeah, probably.
And I know you've been waiting. I know you've been anticipating. And even though it's been a while, I'm back with a smile. In a new style, new weave, new whip, holding new keys, new kicks, new lipsticks, new money or new shit. New everything, got you shook, new input, new outlook, new everything, new everything. Soft serve, serving you so softly. Soft serve, serving you so softly. This is a soft serve, and it's about to get saucy. Extra glossy, extra flossy, extra everything. You know, now that we're reacquainted, go ahead, enjoy.
There's actually a music soundtrack on there, but we can't hear it, I guess. Just to let everyone know, there was music.
I hear it. I hear it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe we start with you now that we've seen the film. With We Make Waves, you tell me what was your objective overall for creating We Make Waves?
Just to, like we said many times before, like just to create some new spaces where the default is not this kind of super masculine, super white, super cis kind of industry that we all work in. So to kind of redress that balance in a sort of micro way in order to come up with some sort of solution for the macro level.
And how have you established that space? Were there any rules, like who could join, or was it open to the public? How did you deal with actually establishing that space?
It was totally and remains totally open to the public. It's just it's not intended to be an exclusive space in any way, but more just more that one that like kind of pushes into the foreground these people who are usually kind of marginalized, people who exist on the margins of the mainstream music industry and even the sort of like independent and other parts of the music industry. We wanted to sort of push them into the driver's seat, sort of. But that doesn't mean that we don't welcome all sorts of people, I guess, at the festival.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously there was a lot of discussion while we were making it about certain topics or panels or workshops. If that was, we kind of left it a little bit up to the people who are organizing the specific workshop, for example, or a discussion if it was going to be closed to only women, trans, and non-binary, and that was important for us. We discussed it a lot. It was a big topic, like how much do we open, like you say, like the bubble, the safety net, the space, and what needs to remain closed in order to achieve what we wanted to achieve, and that's to give everyone that we were making this for, I think, intentionally the feeling that we're doing all that we can to achieve that, you know. But it's a very difficult thing to do. Especially when you have you open it to the public. It's like, you know, open the door for, and yeah.
And where did you establish those boundaries, and how? When you say you have some spaces that are specifically for certain people, and then you have some open spaces, how did you go about that?
Well, we kind of, as Melissa said, there was a lot of discussion about it, and like I think we kept coming back to this realization that I believe quite kind of strongly that there's no way to be absolutely exclusive. Like, first of all, I don't think it's a very good strategy, but also for us in our sort of situation, it would involve a certain amount of judging people's identity by their appearance, which isn't something that we ever kind of want to start doing. So the way that we ended up doing it was just to sort of write closed workshop and hope that people sort of got the message from that. So, for example, if we were having a workshop about harassment in music spaces, and there were at almost every workshop there were a lot of cis male friends of mine present, but the idea was that they would then get the message that they should maybe think twice about attending this particular workshop, or if they do, to take a back seat, or and I think like there was a fair amount of self-sorting that happened just because of the nature of the event. The kind of people that came were by and large the sort of people who were pretty respectful of those kinds of boundaries. So what do you think?
Maybe, yeah, Elie, how does that work with Meetup? How do you define who comes to the space, and how does it work exactly, the dynamics of it?
So yeah, it's pretty similar in that first it's communicated actually directly, that the discussion which normally takes place from about 7 until 9 in the evening, is intended for female, trans or non-binary people. And normally that's what happens. Occasionally people don't get the message and they come, but it's never been like a kind of rigid system of letting people in or not letting people in. It's just the general space that we're creating. Yep.
And then I think you also have a part that is public afterward.
And this, I think, is also really important from what I've seen is we are giving opportunities for people to perform who also perhaps want visibility. They want to be able to invite people to see them play. And then everybody is welcome after the discussion to come for the live performances, the DJs and the VJs. And I think it's been working quite well like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So how does this this moment of, or those parts that are opening up the space, have there ever been any issues, or has this all run smoothly when you say the where you bring in the public into their kind of closed group, or you have the closed group discussion and then you open it up? Has this always run smoothly, or have there been any issues with?
Shall I?
Yeah, maybe talk first about what we
there are, of course, sometimes minor issues. I think from my experience of what I've seen, what's important is that understanding from the organisers and the people that go of what the space is for. And with this mutual understanding, normally these issues get resolved quite quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah. Similar. We had kind of some issues that were, I mean, I think in the large scale of things, kind of relatively minor. But we had a couple of people who didn't quite get the memo about like the sort of closed workshops and did what you would sort of hope people wouldn't do, which is sort of dominate the discussion, make people feel uncomfortable. And that happened on a couple of occasions, which is unfortunate, but kind of to be expected. And we learned a lot from it. We're working on a way to put what we learned from it into practice this year. If anyone has any tips, very, very welcome. It's always difficult because, like I said, you don't want to be exclusive, and also you don't want to judge anyone too quickly or too harshly, but that sometimes means allowing situations to happen which aren't ideal. So it's a difficult situation, you know. Like you almost never know until it's like slightly too late that there's some sort of problem. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, can you maybe give an example just to illustrate a little bit?
I mean, for example, in the aforementioned harassment and music spaces roundtable discussion, which was closed, kind of labelled as closed, and there was one particular fella who came in and sort of dominated the discussion in a sort of quite an aggressive and unpleasant way, to the point that people were quite upset, and it was something that we got several complaints about and had to deal with as an incident. And so it's just something that we need to be more careful about our monitoring, and brief our speakers better on we need to sort of have like a general strategy for dealing with de-escalating and dealing with situations like that, how to sort of nip them in the bud before they get to the point where people are actually upset about them. It's difficult. It's a difficult one because you want to kind of maintain. It's very important. Like I think one of the most important things for an event like ours is to maintain this like really sort of nurturing, comfortable, quote unquote safe space, and that's essential, I think, really. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that that's maintained. What do you think? Yeah.
No, I agree. That's definitely like that one example, or just, having someone try to dominate the conversation, which we definitely then afterwards, especially when it's a very emotional and very raw topic. It's very difficult when, especially in this case, the women, trans, and non-binary people that were in the audience, aside from this one cis man, he proceeded to speak, and it also, I think, allowed the other audience members to kind of go back, like step back, and not be able to say maybe the things that they would have said had he not been there, for example, or just feel kind of like already positioned somewhere else where exactly that's what we wanted to do this whole event in a way to give them the platform.
Yeah.
The platform is theirs. They should be there to feel good about what they're saying and not maybe hold back and maybe to share. The sharing part is was a very I think central theme about everything, because that's how we grow vibrant, and that's why we also wanted to also leave it open, because we can't have you can't grow also without the conversation being open, and also hoping that the people that would have come, or the cis men, if we want to be specific, came to the event, would be open and be there to also to grow, get more understanding and more empathy towards the situation, and maybe give some ideas of how we could work together to kind of make the situation better for everyone, I guess. And that was,
Yeah. Also, like a brief anecdote from that same talk was like, I'll never forget, like going in at the start, and everyone had sort of started to gather down the back of the room, and we were trying to bring everyone up to sit in a circle. We set all these chairs out and stuff, and you're like, come on, everybody. And everybody was kind of reluctant, as the people generally are, to move into the sort of front row. And I just like turned around for a second, I turned back, and the circle was just all these like smiling, wonderful feminist men, but like they just straight away, like absolutely no. And then it just like all of these like other people who weren't cis men down the back of the room, still hiding in the corner. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly it. It's not, you don't want to exclude men at all. And like, far be it from me to like ask them to be less confident, but we need to get the others to be like, to step into that, to feel less worried about stepping into the limelight in that way. And like how we kind of, without excluding anyone, how we adjust for that confidence deficit and for that sort of like dominance deficit is like how we need to really, that's where we need to put our energies this year, I think.
I think in that sense, the meetup model seems to me quite good in that you say you have this explicitly closed space, but then you also have this open space where everybody can join. So it's clear, like you can achieve kind of both an intimate discussion and opening up from people, and on the other hand, you also give visibility.
In this context, it works. I've got to say it's not really comparable with We Make Waves, because this is like a big festival that happens over days, and meetup is a monthly or once every 2 month meetup that happens over the course of a few hours. So it's a lot easier to have within this time frame. This kind of like beginning with it exclusive and then ending with it open.
I mean, we did do that, and the fact that it was conference and also festival to showcase. So we had created 2 platforms, in fact, for visibility and for also just showing how great a lineup can be. In the arguments of the last years, which we've seen it starting with the whole festival idea of not being enough women, trans, and non-binary people on actual festival lineups. So that was like one side, and then we had the conference, which are the other. So I think we tried to achieve as much as possible within the framework. It was a lot over the 3 days. As I said, try to create these 2 environments and also be safe yet open and public, and that is a challenge. And so really, people have good ideas to join the conversation, because it's actually it's a thing that I think that we can't manage alone, and nobody can really. And I think you have to kind of that's what it's about community and talking to each other and sharing and trying to make, I guess, the world a better place.
Yeah, maybe just relating directly to that. I mean, I think all of you ultimately want like more diversity in music, I guess, and the kind of spaces you're creating are a stepping stone to achieve that. So how do you see creating those spaces as a tactic or a strategy towards achieving this bigger objective, like linking? Because you could meet like forever inside that space and nothing would happen outside. But how do you actually establish the link? I mean, I can see with Meetup you have this open platform, and there you present. But how do you? Maybe you can talk a bit about that. Also, you can mention other spaces like digital spaces like Female Pressure Network, for example, which is an online network for women, trans and non-binary.
I can say as an artist how it's benefited me, and that for me, since I used to present as female, I'm now I'm non-binary transmasculine, and since transitioning, most of the opportunities I've had to play have been like within feminist and queer spaces, whereas previously I had many more opportunities to play in other places. So for me, it's been really important to have these feminist spaces, to actually have the opportunity to play, to have things on my portfolio, to have stuff online, so that I continue being an active composer and an active producer and performer. And yeah, just to keep it going, really. So as an artist, that's home for me. Yeah.
I would say, as it's a really overused word, but like the word empowerment is really kind of the most, in the sense that like you can't really underestimate the effect of being, like at all levels of the music industry, when you're kind of like marginalized because of in some way because of your identity. It really can like take a toll on your confidence, which is what we saw at the start of for example, the round table, where all the men came forward straight away because they feel, even in this particular space, and like white straight cis men tend to feel at home in any particular environment, whereas that's not always the case for people who aren't white or who aren't, etc., etc. And so creating a space where those people feel like not only at home but valued and in a position of power and prioritized and stuff is actually, I think, like has a lasting effect on those people's confidence in the world outside it. Then they can take that confidence outside of the space. They can take the ideas that they've learned. They can break down and unlearn some of the stereotypes that they've internalized about themselves and realize that they're not true and they don't have to be true. And all of those things, the breaking down of stereotypes and the building up of confidence, they can take outside as well. I think that's useful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's about sums it up. Yeah. I don't know much more than we can do than we have already done right now, except for like trying to kind of be better and learn more and be more proactive about things, to keep creating that kind of those atmospheres where we can achieve in the end the goal of equality, of visibility, of general empowerment for all of the marginalized groups that we're representing inside of our event. And I think that that just, as much as people will get tired of repeating, like saying the same things, until that happens, we have to, even like having a title, like We Make Waves is the title of the festival, but we include, in a way, like the subtitle. And I think that we'll have to continue until we realize that it's not necessary anymore, that it's accepted as for what, or we've achieved what we want to achieve, I think. And that is, I say, very future, without being very dark about the situation. But I think it's just to say that we'll keep moving forward with the ideas and whatever aspect with the event or outside the event or within groups that we belong to, that where we can discuss topics, or outside where we can talk with everybody on those things. I would say that's just to keep up with what we're doing.
Yeah, this very short panel is already coming to an end. I think it can just be a starting point, and
exactly,
we'll all be around, and you're welcome to talk to everyone. Maybe just to finish off, you already mentioned like talking about this year and what you're going to do. Maybe just one wish for the future from each of you, just to finish off the round.
I might need a moment to think about that. Doing this
Okay. Can start. We get back.
Just like a general, like can I say impeach Trump?
I mean, I meant where you want to go.
Okay,
with your
about
activities,
women or
but
whatever. I guess sort of like continuing on this sort of exponential, what I see very optimistically to be like sort of an exponential growth in kind of grassroots organizations and like diversity focused initiatives. I think it's really cool, and I think that it's great that in Germany, at least, that is becoming more and more of we are benefiting greatly from that becoming more and more of a focus on like a sort of city and governmental level in terms of funding, and also in terms of the media, the press, the amount of press attention that we got last year for the festival, I'm sure we wouldn't have gotten 3 years ago. So that's really fun, and so for that to continue and actually have some sort of measurable effect would be great.
Maybe. The future is a very hard thing to talk about.
Well, next week.
Yeah, next week.
It's 1 minute left, also we can finish.
just reiterating it really, that these types of this type of activism continues and grows to the point where it's not even necessary anymore, and everything starts blending. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what we all should be working for, and we're actually I think that's in all the things that we all we're doing it all the time. So living it, and I think that's the more people that you talk to and become involved with and listen to them as well, that you'll be able to learn a lot from each other. So I'm just hoping to always learn more, because there's so much more to learn. There's so many topics which, for myself, have not touched upon or reached where I feel like it's necessary. So I think it's that we all just keep our ears open and hearts open, and wanting to live in a society that is the same as when we look around. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.